The Book of Clarence from James Samuel. It's a biblical comedy about a man trying to gain wealth and fame by replicating Christ's miracles. So this movie takes place in Jerusalem in 33 AD, where we follow Clarence, played by Lakeith Stanfield. He unfortunately owes some money to the loan shark Jedediah the Terrible, leading him to make some pretty drastic decisions. Clarence sees how the disciples of Jesus Christ worship him, and he decides that he too could easily be held at the same esteem. He thinks that Christ's miracles are all a sham, but he realizes that he can capitalize on Jerusalem's willingness to believe that they're real. So with the help of his friends, he goes around faking some miracles of his own to collect some quick coin on the street. I think the best way to describe this movie is to just call it a biblical satire. It humorously places these very modern tropes and cliches in the biblical era. Things like rolling up to the club with a joint and walking past the doorman and betting on street races. To some of you, this might sound a bit campy, but this movie is far from the level of foolishness that spoof movies like Meet the Spartans sink to. It's a lot more tasteful, but it does still have plenty of punchy jokes and a touch of absurdist humor. This movie did make me laugh quite a few times, but like any comedy, there's still plenty of jokes that didn't land well with me, but nothing is cringy, which is all that really matters. With the cast being predominantly African American, there's also some racial commentary. For an example, the Romans are all Caucasian and are basically the cops, satirizing the relationship between corrupt police officers and minorities in America. The overall quality of the production design fits the bill for a passable biblical epic, but the way that the dialogue, the cinematography, and performances all meld together will remind you that it should be viewed as a comedy more than anything, in case viewers are starting to take the movie a bit too seriously. Underneath the haze of satire and weed smoke, it does have some very serious story elements that take up a lot of the movie. But the biggest issue that this movie has is that the dramatic parts of the story were a bit hard to take seriously just because of how silly the movie could be otherwise. There are some seriously gruesome moments that could have felt dark, but when you're conditioned to not take the movie seriously, they just don't land so well. There were a couple of times that this movie actually just felt like a poorly written drama as opposed to a comedy with drama. I just think that they could have balanced the two genres a little bit better. So Clarence is more or less the modern atheist in this movie. He is not shy at all of calling this new faith around him a total fallacy. He makes a lot of arguments that are commonly made today, questioning the existence of God, and he basically thinks that Christ is a con artist. But we literally see in the movie Christ performing legit miracles. So if you were wondering if the film's depiction of Jesus was offensive or not, I personally would not say that it is. He's not in the movie very much at all, but he is taken very seriously, and he is depicted as the true-hearted Messiah that people would want to see him as. So for those of you who are not religious, there's plenty of humor in this movie for you, but it will of course be a better experience if you have some basic familiarity with the Bible and Christianity. But for those of you who are people of faith, I think it's a little bit trickier to pitch this one. I could actually see a lot of you devout Christians really enjoying this movie, assuming that you can tolerate mature subjects and themes and you don't mind having your faith poked at a little bit, of course. There's a lot of humorous commentary that I would not say makes a mockery of Christianity by any means. In fact, a lot of that commentary is arguably for Christians, since some of the subjects are more recognizable to folks who have read the Bible. But there are a couple of moments that could potentially piss some people off. I'm not gonna spoil anything, but there is a scene where someone very prominent in Jesus Christ's life is dunked on pretty hard. I personally thought it was really funny, but I could see it upsetting some people. This movie also depicts plenty of biblical characters, including Mary Magdalene, Judas Iscariot, Pontius Pilate. Though heavily exaggerated, they all play their appropriate roles in this story. So rather than having a standard 3-act structure, this movie was cut into 3 chapters, but the chapters just don't feel like they were cut very evenly. Like a standard 3-act structure looks like this, but the chapters in this movie timed out like this. You don't always have to follow a 3-act structure, but I do think that this story would have done better with one. So on paper, this movie to me just looked terrible. Biblical stoner comedy just isn't my cup of tea. But overall, it delivered a mostly entertaining experience through clever satire and recognizable biblical figures. The movie's fine. It's definitely one that I think you should approach with the idea that it is a comedy first and a drama second, and not the other way around. I don't think that anybody needs to rush to the theater to go see this one, but if you do, there are a few good laughs waiting for you. Thank you for watching this review. If it brought you any value at all, please consider giving it a like. It really does help the channel grow. I'll see you later this week with my reviews of Lift and ISS.